Indiana Jones
is a source of unspeakable power, and it has to be researched.
And it will be, I assure you, Dr. Brody, Dr. Jones. We have top men working on it right now.
What do you have to say?
That's no man.
It's a Bicth.
Who?
All of us at Lucasfilm realized what an amazing opportunity to experiment and
fuck up everything. Everything. Everything.
You're listening to Duck Dust FM. Look over yonder, dear viewer, at that tall and shining castle sliding off the side of the hill. That's what happens when you fuck with your customers. It was another landmark day yesterday in the tale of Disney's eternal plunge into the abyss of apathy and financial exsanguination. If you recall, several months ago at Star Wars Cerebral Hemorrhagration, Lucasfilm was dealt several self-inflicted death blows with the announcement of them doubling down on the Rey Palpatine trilogy in defiance of virtually all Star Wars fans who weren't paid to bark and clap in the audience.
Tell me something. Are you stupid or something?
Along with that were several more pointless vanity projects nobody asked for, including a James Mangold High Republic movie, but we'll come back to that later. The least talked about, but perhaps most hilarious news of the day, came in the form of Disney Plus, recent losers of 4 million subscribers and the last few drops of respect from Star Wars fans, being forced into an unfamiliar and awkward position where they were the ones having to sell off their atrocious content instead of usurping entire studios to claim as their own.
You brought me today is worth 1/4 portion.
This also comes among announcements that the even more than the Marvel's delayed Echo show that you've been waiting for since, Hawkeye? Doesn't matter. Is going to be shat out all at once instead of being drawn and quartered over the course of 10 weeks.
As you are slowly digested over 1,000 years.
Sold among the dozens of other mind-numbing 30-minute bursts of bright lights was Willow, a formerly beloved Lucasfilm property that was given one of the harshest modern Disneyfications in recent memory, coming only 4 months after the premiere of its last episode and 2 after its merciful cancellation. How long till the money gets so tight it comes for something they actually care about? Sooner than you may think.
No shit!
Speaking of things getting shut down within a year of opening, Disneyland's unvaunted Galactic Starcruiser was forced to close its $10,000 a night plastic doors after discovering there aren't nearly enough brand slave fuckwits with deep pockets than they originally thought. Would that have been the case if this generic corporate hostel had been, I don't know, the Death Star or Coruscant Tower or anything in canon instead of a crowbarred-in marketing ploy about Han and Leia's honeymoon?
Perhaps not.
Kathleen Kennedy directly chose to have likely the two biggest entertainment cash cows in history, Star Wars and Disneyland, breed together, but instead of having it naturally make something that would have tripled their profits, decided not to cater to lifelong Star Wars fans and their children, but to the most casual and non-existent of their consumers.
And how do you know they can't breed? Well, because all the animals in Jurassic Park are female.
It's cost her dearly on the cultural front, as Disneyland is no longer in the top 10 vacation destinations, money is leaking out of every crack, and worst of all, an entire generation of kids don't give a rat's ass about Star Wars. The cultural moments of the OT and prequels after a hopeful but eventual collapse after The Force Awakens and its ensuing dumpster fires are gone, having been watered down more than a vodka soda during happy hour.
Jedi business, go back to your drinks.
What did you do to my drink?
And finally, speaking of watered-down piss water, no, not Bud Light.
I got some Bud Lights for us.
Indiana Jones and the Dilation of Forced Viewership, where an 80-year-old half-baked Indy travels through time to fight Nazis, was inflicted upon France in a way perhaps not seen since the last time Nazis were in France. Harrison Ford and his archaeological wife received a deserved standing ovation for putting himself through 2 more indie movies more than anyone needed or wanted, before his near-flawless screen legacy was dealt another left hook from the Kennedy machine as the opening titles commenced. The French faithful, usually ones to rightfully or not, deride dumb American tourists, seem to have gotten this right as audible cries of boredom and justified disdain for the unbearable Fleabag were heard throughout the screening. Don't they want to make any money with this?
It's called capitalism.
This wasn't the typical Disney paid-off and brainwashed audience, an odd move for a film of this stature, so not everyone was forced to play ball. A move that was critical and miscalculated seems to have been fatal for the doomed sequel, as Disney shills turned to writing somewhat honest reviews and calling it what it is. Shit. So much so that the Disney puppeted Rotten Tomatoes let the sludge gates open a month early and displayed its abysmal score. While I'm sure it'll be jacked back up by the time of the film's release, this is quite an unorthodox move for Kennedy, especially considering the film doesn't release for another month. The company is in ruins and only going downhill. The once untouchable brands are being used as newspapers for Bob Iger to shit on, and after all of this, Kennedy will still be employed. Why? You know why. Iger won't fire her because he's on her side. She'll Victoria Alonso his ass if she is, and is essentially in control of the company now. The only person who might be held responsible for Indy 5's eventual blunder will probably be James Mangold, and will result in him losing his High Republic movie that he was never going to get in the first place, because Kennedy, however evil, isn't completely dumb, and will always have a scapegoat at the ready for her failures, Indy 5 being the next one in line. Iger doesn't seem too keen on doing anything significant to gain any trust or money back, or tell Kennedy to stop suiciding the company into oblivion.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
So the logical end here, even if it takes a few years, is the merciful end of Disney, which is a shame for a company that took a century to build and under a decade to destroy, but as we'll see next month, that's what happens to things that overstay their welcome and become what they're not. They're forgotten as soon as they arrive and destroy what's come before. It's a good lesson in entertainment, but a lesson learned too late for the House of Mouse.
I don't understand. How the fuck do you get a job and fuck up everything?
Fucking like and subscribe for duck's sake.
The Duke. Duck, I says.